Okay, roll call.
Councilman Ballard?
Here.
Councilman Engel?
Here.
Councilman Petrusi?
Here.
Councilman Stein? Councilman Toussaint?
Here.
Councilman Bonidian?
Here.
President Faust?
Here. Preliminary announcements. Any preliminary announcements? Mayor, Council, preliminary announcements. Okay. We have no guests here tonight. We've invited guests, but we have some people here that are always welcome to come. Council items that we're going to be talking about tonight. First one is Borough of Munhall parcels. Jim?
We did some reorganizing with our insurance carriers, and we were insured all the parcels that we have. I wasn't quite sure that we had an exhaustive list, a good list, so I called the county and I got a list of all the parcels that we have under the Borough of Munhall. And we came to a quite exhaustive list, a lot of them that we didn't have on our list. All these ones in red are vacant properties, except for one, which happens to be Kennedy Park, I take it. Bob, Dave, and I rode around to all these vacant lands, and we came up to 9 parcels that we feel we can get rid of, we can sell to whoever may want them. I talked to Greg before, and said, hey, was it possible just to sell these properties? And he said, yeah, West Midland has done it multiple times. So the question is, we have some of these properties, are we interested in unloading some or selling some? Or a lot of them are smaller parcels that are sitting between somebody's house that they might want it to expand their yards.
Where's 3506 Troutman? I might live at 3505, that's what I'm asking.
Probably
Your backyard, you don't notice.
That's a ball field.
It's a field.
No, we're not selling the ball field down. Okay, it's not in red.
3505, 3506 should be across the street.
That's across the
There
street.
you
That's the
go.
ball field.
That's the end of the lot across
Got
the
it.
street.
Yeah.
It's called a baseball field.
I got it.
Troutman,
Okay.
Troutman Field. So there is
We're not
no,
gonna sell Troutman.
and that's not a vacant lot. That's not one of the vacant properties.
Okay.
So do we want to look into selling these properties?
What do we have to do? I mean, how should we go by it? I mean, just put a notice out?
That would
Or
be-
do they sheriff's sale or?
No, not sheriff's sale.
Just a notice.
Greg would handle that. How do we do it legally?
No, it says-
That's
Yeah.
exactly what he did.
It's a ball field right there.
Yeah, it seems very logical that whoever lives next door to, 14 more feet of property would want to buy it. And I think, if we just sell it for $1, they will have responsibility for the cleaning of it,
Right.
for the upkeep, and it'll belong to them. And I think if we just, solicit from the adjoining property owners, I bet they'd be interested.
Okay, there's three pieces of property, 2 on McWinney and 1 on Virginia. That could be one lot. Where those parcels are sold off, and somebody could actually put a house in that area. It's pretty big. Okay,
Question
yes.
on this. All these lots here, do we insure them now? Are they
Yeah.
under our policies, correct?
Right.
And that leads me, because I was thinking about this. The flyover bridge that we have going across into the water, that's our bridge. We own that bridge, correct?
Yes.
Do we insure that bridge? Is there insurance on that bridge on our policies?
I would think so.
Why don't you check on that? Because maybe we could sell that too to someone.
And they could close him.
They
can close him. Hold his ransom.
Honestly though, if the bridge gets damaged by some
And it does a lot. There's
some
a lot
act
of
of
big
God,
trucks.
we should see if we have coverage on it.
We do have coverage on it. We have a blanket policy that would cover anything that we own, but it is good to look into to see if it specifically is on there.
Okay, thank you.
And there may be another caveat that roads are handled differently or whatever.
But it's a structure, so it's a building structure of some sort, so. Just wanted to bring that up. Homestead.
How much you want for that bridge? Put up a toll booth there.
All right. Second, GIS benefits. Last week, Becky and I went to a meeting through our insurance company to look into this software. We came back pretty excited. What it is most people, when you have a job, you go to work, and every year you have to, what they call open enrollment. They tell you open enrollment's from October 1st to November 1st. You gotta go in there every year and you gotta say, this is what I want. Well, we don't do it that way. We go in and we sign people up on paper, like the old fashioned way. And it's very difficult if somebody is interested in something else to have an insurance agent to come to sell you more life insurance that your compensation package gives you. It's very difficult to buy more. This will give us the ability to be able to go in there. You pull your health benefits. Police, they have one choice. We all have one choice, but they're different choices. So it goes in there, and just click on what they get. If they try to get something else, it's not going to let them move forward. Then you go into the short-term disability. Clicks on, then if you want more short-term disability, you want to buy an extra short-term disability, you just click on it. It tells you right there what's going to come out of your pay, and so forth and so on. The cost to the borough is nothing. As long as we deal with 4 of these carriers that this company deals with, it would be at no cost to us, and we already have 4. So we would like to move forward with this. I think, I talked to some of the policemen, Pat, talked to some Public Works, and everyone seemed it would be a
Who's the
benefit.
carriers? Who's the carriers?
There was like 20 carriers, Unum, all the ones we use, Standard, the ones we use for long-term, that's it. A good example too is, we just had a police officer pass away. And he was retired for a long time. But we don't know exactly what insurance he should have got, the death benefit he should have got after he retired. We thought we had everything on our rows. We did scrub the list, scrubbed it again, found out that, hey, this guy we didn't have enough coverage on him. So what could have went is we thought he had $10,000. He qualified for $12,500. His family brought that to our attention, and he was right. Well, one option is, who are we gonna blame? No one really, because the persons aren't even here, right? But also, the borough could have been on the hook for the other $2,500 out of general fund. Our brokers that we deal with said, oh, these people have been dealing with us a long time. It was a mistake. They obviously don't have the paperwork like that to be able to look at it. We'll take care of that, and we got lucky. Well, if we do this, when somebody retires and they go into the system, they're gonna have to say, hey, I retired at this day. It's very difficult in municipal government, because if I retire, if my last day is today, I'm no longer gonna work, but I had vacation time, I had vacation, sick days, personal days, comp days, whatever. I might have, as we did have a public works employee, his actual retirement day might be 6-7 months later. And then guess what? What date do you put in? Now, the individual will be more or less, okay, this is what I have to put in. If he puts a date in today, that this is his, it'll gray it out by the parameters we put in, so you can't trick the system.
So this was just during their sign-up period, right?
Every year though, but
Every year, once they're, and they'll probably send somebody in to guide them through a little bit, or will they just be on their own to go through the sign-up? Because I know where I work at, they send somebody in, and they, you can look at all the benefits and.
Well, we don't
sign up for this.
have a lot of benefit packages to do, so, for them to choose from. They don't have an MMO, PPO, and this, that. We all have one insurance package. It's either, the police have one, the administration and public works have another one, and then there's
But this will
people
include-
have in lieu of.
So this will include Unum and the Aflac too, that's probably in
Right,
this.
that's their short-term
So
disability.
that'll be included, that, someone, Unum or Aflac will probably be sending somebody in, I mean, that.
Or they can just go in there and say, this is what I want.
Very good, right,
Yeah,
but how are you gonna do that, actually?
Cost is good.
and then they won't get it. That's the benefit of it.
Nothing costs the
It's
same.
very difficult. We've been trying to set up, one second, Nick. We've been trying to set up since I've been here, because that's what I did in the past, and to try to set up a time for these agents to come in here to be more like consultants, to, hey, we'll give you 20 minutes to talk to these people. No one shows up. They don't know what they want, plus they don't want anyone to sell them. I wanna talk about, I had a baby, so I wanna talk about more life insurance for my family, but I don't want this guy coming to my dining room table and sitting there until I say, okay, give me $100,000. So this will show what they get, you know, per pay what's coming up. You want another 25,000? It's gonna be $5. If you want 100,000, it might be, you know, $18 or whatever.
Yeah, with regard to the retirees, I mean, 20 years, I'll be retired March 31st. It's always been the understanding, at least among the older guys, was that the contract that you go out on is the contract, that is how much the retirement, or excuse me, the death benefit.
Right.
That's always been the thing. What mine is, they can all be different depending on when you retire.
Right.
Now, the gentleman you were speaking about, I think he went out on a medical many years before, and what his was and how that came, I have no idea.
That's probably what happened. If he was out on medical, maybe that wasn't his retirement date till a year or two later.
No, he didn't actually officially retire until about 7 or 8 years ago.
In 2004 was his actual retirement date, but he was gone
Because he
until
was
1996.
Right.
Because he was on.
Right.
But he was out of here for 10 years before that.
This is what I've talked about with other councils, that, Mr. Titchell, you know this, that things move forward in time, okay, councils change, things change, but we're living with the legacy.
Right.
Okay, and somehow this has to be, we talked about this, many times. And then there's always like a big brouhaha, well, when you get, and there's always confusion. That might be a good idea.
I think it's an excellent, here's another good example. When we hired Carrie, who's doing she's our financial clerk, we call her. She does a lot of the financials. We didn't know when we hired her, we didn't know where we were gonna put her and where Becky was going to go. Was Becky gonna transition to that person? Or is this, and the new person gonna more or less take over the HR insurance type issues? One of the reasons Becky, probably the main reason Becky stayed doing the HR stuff instead of going to payroll and all that stuff was for the simple reason she already knew a lot of it and what was going on.
Right.
Just like you have Becky Weir leaves, and Missy comes in, and Missy leaves, now Becky comes in. You're only as good as the paperwork that you wrote, and the paperwork that you saved, and the records you have.
Well, see, this is what.
This will eliminate any.
This is exactly what I have, a copy of my contract, when it went out, and it's written out in plain language of what I'm entitled to, or what my family's entitled to. And, you know, as it goes forward, each man that retires should know this, to keep that, because that's the only way they can keep track of, and help the borough keep track of what's owed them.
And if, like Pat said, if the date was 2004, and he was out of work, you never know what the note said in there to maybe his last day. It said he was terminated this day. But he really wasn't retired for 4 or 5 more years or whatever. We wouldn't know that. She'd have to go by whatever's in the file. So this would eliminate a lot of that.
Right.
Like when you guys retire, you have one particular life insurance policy, but the borough may change that 6 to 10 years later, then all of that changes. Not your benefit, but the carrier.
The carrier.
You know how, remember last year I sent out those beneficiary forms because we had changed the carrier?
Right.
That particular person, they never sent the form back, so.
That's on them.
I know, but this insurance guy that we have, they were great. They stepped in, did the other 2,500, and they accepted.
Well, we've talked about this by keeping it forward,
But if they don't send them back, I can't.
Well, what's another benefit of that is, you can use a computer, so we're gonna give you a thing to go into, and you put your ID, your password in, you can go do your own as a retiree. This other person may not even know how to use a computer, or know how to use a computer, but doesn't have one, and wants somebody to walk through it. We can come in there, we'll walk through them on a computer of ours. Third person might come in, okay, well, either way, and the third person comes in and says, what? I'm not doing it because I don't know what it is, and I don't want to ask questions because I don't want to look dumb. No problem. There's a 1-800 number. They'll walk you right through it and then send an electronic notification that this person did it, here's the paperwork. So there's all kinds of,
That's always been the understanding, I
Right.
can confirm that, that's always been the contract you go out on is the contract that governs what benefit you will receive.
That's one.
that wasn't the question. The question we came out with is, when was the termination date?
Yeah.
And we had it because, like Pat said, he left so much earlier than his actual date
Yeah.
that we miscalculated, so, but it got fixed.
Once an employee separates, you can't give them a benefit, it's illegal. You know, whatever, like Nick's saying, you can't increase that after they leave. You're not allowed to do that by law. So whatever he went out on is what he's entitled to. If you change the contract 5 years later and you say, okay, the retirees now get, $100,000 as a death benefit, he doesn't get that.
No, that wasn't,
Get,
the question
like
was
any
is,
public employment, you can't do that.
it was his date 2004, 1994, because he quit working in 94. That was the
There's nothing
question.
in his file.
We're only
that
as good
told
as the
us
file.
anything
Right.
about
So,
Right.
So if anybody has any more questions or want to discuss that in more detail, let me know. Otherwise, I think we're going to move forward with that.
Price is right.
Yeah, we'll talk
Okay.
tomorrow.
The budget is completed, the budget's out for advertisement. The millage will not change. There'll be an ad in the paper, we'll vote on this next week. Vanguard janitorial services. For this building, Mr. Petruzzi and I talked to a company that came in, they walked around the whole building, and they'll come in here 2 times a week, and the price is $612 a month for them to come in 2 times a week. We talked to this person, and we said, well, what if we want a deep clean? He said, he called it a deep clean, actually. He said, you can do a deep clean. We're gonna send a crew in here. He says, quite truth with you, when my crew gets in here, if you do it for two times a week, for 2 weeks, after those 2 weeks, you'll be surprised how clean this building got. So, my question is, are we okay to move forward with, try this? We can go down, say we get them for 2 months, 3 months, and then we like the idea, we wanna keep them, fine. If we don't want to, fine. Or if we wanna go down to 1 day a week, that's fine as well. Mr. Petruzzi, he was in this business for a long time, and he feels, and I do too, feel that we ought to move forward with the $612 price tag.
You sure that's a month?
Yeah?
That seems cheap. It really does.
You're talking 2 times a week.
2 times a week for a month.
That doesn't mean up here. Now, we'll clean this, and when we see fit that this is getting clean, because this doesn't get used as much. We can always, progress them more down there than we do up here. But the first couple of weeks, we're gonna do everything.
Yeah. I look at that $612, 2 days per week, and I say that is cheap. So I picked up the phone and called the guy from Vanguard, and I said, hey OJ, is that a week or is that a month? He said, that's a month. So I'm gonna go with that's a month.
Is there any kind of contract we have to sign? I mean, any length, like 3 months, 6 months?
Nope.
No, nothing?
No.
Just month to month?
I would,
That's
the
good.
game plan we talked about is, let's get it twice a week for, through January, maybe February, then see where we're at.
Include the police department?
That's, especially, Mr. Petruzzi, would you like to expound on that?
Police department will be kept up as long as we have to keep it up. They're gonna scrub everything down, clean it, and they'll do that every week until we want to get rid of it.
Okay.
For the most part, the game plan would be, every day that they come in, they're gonna go to the
They'll
police
start the police
department.
What time of day would they be?
They'll be coming in the
in the
evening.
evenings.
Okay.
Yeah, and then, they're all bonded, they're all background, all that. They will come in, and, then the administration, detective's office, tax office, that end of it, we're not gonna need it like the police department needs it. So they'll come up here maybe a half a day, half of the shift.
They'll get it all
So,
cleaned.
yeah, they'll get it all.
And this will include, Mr. Petruzzi, what, the floors,
No
The
vacuum all
walls.
the floors, walls. They won't touch anybody's desk. If you want
Right,
it
they're not
clean,
allowed.
you take everything off it. They'll clean it and you put it back on. They
Well,
won't
your
touch
method's
it.
fine, Pat, you know, put all the papers on it, don't get dusty.
Sure.
But, they'll do a good job.
The other guy's gonna stay on?
Yeah,
When's this gonna start?
well, we can call them tomorrow, it takes about 7 days, you'll have a supervisor will come in and talk to you, me,
Yeah, he'll go around.
Tuesday, he'll
I
go,
think around the first of the year.
yeah.
I think
We
we're
have to
gonna
vote
wait
on
till
this
after.
next month,
Let's
next
wait,
week.
wait,
Yeah,
wait.
you can tell me right now, it's,
We'll wait till
Professional
after the
services.
first of the year.
Wait, we'll vote on Wednesday.
you know, you don't have to vote, you can tell me right now, professional services.
Yeah, after the first of the year. What do you think, T?
I'd go for it. For that price, we can free up personnel for ICF.
Is it gonna get, we don't wanna get rid of this dirt down? They're gonna come in here, they're gonna tell you, we did, do the dirt.
Well, you got the address and the phone number, call them, tell them to come in. I'm gonna tell you.
All you gotta do is sign a document, you tell me, go ahead,
Go ahead.
all right? Hey, intergovernmental, ordinance 1592 will be voted for next week, that's the intergovernmental cooperation agreement, the ordinance that we'll be signing for the maintenance agreement. And then the second part of that will be approving the waterfront maintenance agreement. We have copies for everybody. Here they come down, here they come right as we speak.
I don't want.
Next thing, Still Valley Enterprise Zone. I got an email from Chuck Stair saying that since the inception of the Main Street Tax Increment Financing Program, the Still Valley Enterprise Zone has provided administrative service on behalf of the Main Street Tax Increment Financing Committee, the boroughs of Homestead, West Homestead, and Munhall. Many successful projects completed for the three boroughs. For the 3-year period, $9,000 per year is the administration fee. Couple questions I have, or was brought to me by Councilman Stein. What had we paid previously? I called bookbinders and tried to get an idea. We couldn't find anything to what we paid in the past. That doesn't mean we didn't pay anything. That means we don't have no records of it. Prior to bookbinders coming in, the borough might have made a $27,000 or whatever paid for the 3 years up front. Rick, do you know what?
I believe the money's just transferred from their money, their funds, I believe. Or you should be paying that $9,000, I believe. But if you're not, then it's funds that they have that they just have to requalify for, I guess. I don't know. I thought you paid it.
Don't we
I
have a
thought we
line
paid
item in the
it.
budget for
I
that?
thought they asked for this every year, don't they?
They do.
They do.
I remember this coming up before.
We did too. We both said it. I called bookbinder, said, hey, give me the payments that we made to Still Valley Enterprise on. They can't find them. Becky went through everything. She couldn't find
Well,
anything.
maybe we didn't pay them anything. Maybe this is a new charge.
No.
No?
Why don't we call Chuck Starrett and ask him what we?
Somebody should have a record of it,
Paid
for
them
that
last
amount of
year.
money.
The only
Just so
thing
we
it
know.
could be then is it's their money that they just have to reapprove that is being put into that, to be spent for that.
I mean, from the maintenance agreement.
No, not from the maintenance agreement, from the enterprise zone itself, to pay for running of the enterprise zone. I guess they use this to pay their bills and whatnot with. Administrative services. So it's their own, it's the money that they have, but they have to vote.
So this is money that they want us to pay them.
But you say you're not paying them.
I didn't say that. We did pay them evidently.
Well, right.
And that was the question. I was asked by Councilman Stein about the night. He said, what did we pay previously? I looked into it, I couldn't find anything. I could call Chuck there and ask him.
Yeah, why don't we
Um,
call Chuck
ask
and
Well,
ask him
what
so
record he
we can answer
has.
that.
yeah, and then the second thing is there another organization that can handle this? I don't know. I guess the question was, it was a rumor, I guess it was only a rumor, that Chuck Starrett is stepping down?
He is.
Easter.
He is stepping
He's
down.
leaving.
Yeah, Mark Patrick is taking over as the administrative office to run the enterprises.
So it
You know
might
what,
be,
something's
might
hitting
be
me right
his new
now.
charge.
No,
What's
no.
Chuck Starrett's name of his company? Starrett Associates, I bet you that's what we paid it to.
You'll find out.
I'll find out.
Call Chuck tomorrow and
I
just,
bet
you
it
know,
came
be
out of
sure.
professional
I think,
services.
I think it came out of Starrett Associates, so I'll be able to find out.
From my
on that.
memory, that 9,000 sticks out, I remember that amount being,
It's the same
if
amount.
I was, it was 9,000, 9,500 was, you know,
What
my
they
memory,
wanted-
it was, has been that amount.
What they wanna change is they wanna make it a 3-year period instead of it being a yearly period. That's what they want, that's what they're really asking you to vote for. And I believe that the $9,000, I thought it come out of their own money. And it has to be relocated.
I bet it came out of professional expenses.
All right, meanwhile, you'll check on it, Joe, right?
I see what you're saying, that they paid, we just have to authorize them to be
You
the
just have to
finance.
authorize them to pay that. I believe that's the way it works.
You know what, all right, I'll look into this, and we'll have it on the
And
agenda.
and
whatever.
what their change is because there's a void, because of the way that Munhall votes on the third Wednesday of the month, then it becomes a lapse. So every year, there's a lapse in time that they're not approving all this expenditures. So they'd like to do it just once every 3 years. So that way, it's gonna still be the same money that they're gonna allot into the organizational administrative fees, but they won't have to come every year and have it voted on every year.
All right, I think that is Starrett Associates, now that I think about it.
But he's no longer gonna be there. He's gonna be Mark Patrick from Duquesne, from the company he with,
That in the environmental company. All right, one last thing. Dave's gonna talk about the 9th and 10th Avenue. Well, I'll talk about it. 9th and 10th Avenue, rezoning of 9th and 10th. We talked about this, rezoning it to B1, B2. We talked about, we have meetings on this. We sent a letter to the county, like we need to. And Kay Pierce sent it back to us and said, well, why don't you think about doing an overlay and doing this and doing this? And as Greg said, we don't have to listen to her. She's just throwing some things out there. I think it would just, Dave and I talked, and Greg, and we think it's just gonna complicate things. And we'd like to start advertising and move 9th and 10th Avenue to rezone B2. Which is the process is advertising,
So you
send
need a
letters,
vote for
public
posting
hearing.
it, public hearing, yeah.
Don't they have to be posted out,
Yes.
throughout the
in the
borough?
neighborhood.
In the neighborhood, yeah, people affected, I thought too.
Oh,
Yep.
What else, Joe?
okay, something.
Yeah.
Hmm?
All right,
And the reasoning for this was to make it more business friendly, right?
Right.
That is the main reason why we would look to do that.
Very good, John.
We did it 2 or 3 years ago for the one side of Ninth Avenue.
Right, and we
The
would have,
northern side of Ninth Avenue.
I mean, there's properties down there that people may be interested in, and if it was zoned in the proper way, a lot of vacant.
So here's a school down
The old
there.
St. John's School.
That's good. We don't have to,
Yeah, the old St.
we'll be
John's
hearing
School.
from him.
Right.
Should be on the phone.
Anything else, Mr. Chairman?
Any additional items? Anybody else have anything else for the good of the body?
Motion to adjourn, sir.
Second.
Okay, motion adjourned, second. All in favor, somebody saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Nays?